And good morning. Welcome once again to Report to Wyoming. My name is Doug Randall. I'm speaking with Wyoming Equality Executive Director Sara Burlingame. Good morning, Sara.
Good morning, Doug.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It was an early morning, so I'm fully caffeinated and ready to go.
Yeah, we were just chatting about that. What you call an early morning and what I call an early morning, two very different things.
I think it's unusual to have things scheduled at 6:30 in the morning, but that's, as you were saying, your lunchtime. So it's all relative.
Okay, a few things we wanted to get to. First of all, did you have a chance to go through Scott Clem's interview on KGAB? Did you listen to that or check it out?
I did, yeah, I did, and I reached out to Scott and left him a message, and my offer stands. I think that's it as far as that goes. But I do think there's a larger conversation that I'm not sure if folks are aware of just kind of what's been happening behind the scenes in terms of community organizing around how to address what happened at McCormic and what kind of issues it brought up for the community.
Do you feel that your organization exploits children?
No, we advocate and protect children.
Okay, let's talk about McCormic. What's the latest there?
So I had a great conversation with Dr. Brown the other morning, and it just made me recognize that how vital, how important it is that we stay in contact and communication with each other. Because I think there were a few facts that were starting to kind of spiral out and that weren't being that were being misunderstood. Primarily that the students themselves had maybe misunderstood, and that they didn't have clarity around whether they were banned or not banned from wearing rainbow attire or showing any support for LGBT equality.
Now, according to the school district statement, my understanding is that is not banned. Is that correct?
So what happened on the Wednesday was that they did ban it, and our kids, I mean, they're not dull knives in the drawer. They're really sharp. I mean, they asked very pointed, very direct questions saying, is this temporary? Is this ongoing? Does this mean any apparel? Is it only flags? Like, what are the parameters here? And they were told very specifically, very repeatedly, going forward, rainbows are banned. And, they were told that any display of a rainbow or any display of support for LGBT equality would make other students feel oppressed in the same way that those flyers had made these students feel oppressed. And our students, No Shrinking Violet, said that's a false equivalency, which, this was not something that was misconstrued by those students. And so the message that I really wanted to get out was that if we are all committed in the way that I think we are to supporting and advocating for these students, we're going to do them a real disservice, and we're going to do some lasting damage to their ability to trust institutions, to trust authority, if they are told one day, this is banned, you're not allowed to do it, and they're told the next day, that never happened. You were never told that. That creates, I think, some real harm and some real trauma. And I just appreciated that, like, Dr. Brown and I could stay in that conversation, and that we could communicate very clearly about what was happening before more misinformation was spread.
But going forward, the rainbow flag is not banned. Do I have that right? Is that
not exactly? Yeah, and so that's sort of the gray area where we are. So I think you saw on Friday, LCSD #1 put out a statement, and in their statement they said unequivocally the swastika and the Confederate flag are banned on LCSD 1 property, and that they're used to bully and harass and intimidate, and so that's what they fall under. And then the second statement addresses rainbow or any other sort of promotion of something else, and that is left to the administrator's discretion, and it's kind of an open question. And so what we would like to do is to kind of close that question.
See, I read it differently. I read the statement on Friday as saying the rainbow flag was allowed. Did I misunderstand that?
The rainbow flag is allowed per each individual administrators' sort of take at the moment. Does that make sense?
So you're saying
we could read the statement. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of gray area there. And how I know that like that wasn't universally understood is that we began receiving calls, from around other schools saying, "Hey, my principal told me that this is still an open question, and we might need to." Take down our rainbow flag and tell students that it's a dress code violation. What do we do? So we do still need more clarity around that. It's not universally understood. But the good news is I think we're getting there. I think we're all working towards that clarity. And I think that this issue was really unfortunate. And this issue, took a toll on the students that it affected and their teachers. But I think that coming out of it, we have recognized that, that there is a need for policies that clearly shows respect for all students.
Okay, let me ask this. Will the Gay Straight Alliance at McCormic Junior High, are they comfortable displaying the rainbow flag at this point? Are they under the understanding they're not to do that, or do we know?
Yeah, so I went to the county GSA meeting on Sunday and talked to the students who are in the McCormic GSA and just asked them, what is your current understanding? And there were about 8 students there, and they said that, and I asked their permission to, relate this, that on Wednesday, about 25 of the 40 students were pulled out of class, and they were told unequivocally, absolutely not. And then there was huge pushback from the community and people kind of saying like, what kind of Disney villain stuff is this? Like rainbows are now outlawed in Cheyenne. Is joy outlawed too? What are the, what is the end goal here? And so the following day, their GSA coordinator stopped some of the students in the hall and told the students, going forward, you can have rainbow apparel. You can't wave a flag in anyone's face. You can't paint rainbows on your face. You can't do anything that's disruptive to learning. But there's no longer going to be a wholesale ban. And so I asked the students, of the 8 here, how many were told directly that? And it was 1 student out of the 8. And they said, well, how did the rest of you know? And they said, well, multiple students were stopped, and then they just passed it along to other students, which I think we can all agree is not our ideal mode of communication. And I think it speaks to the trouble that the district and the teachers are having right now of, well, how do we address this? How do we address this in a way that isn't, traumatizing to the kids, like continuing to pull them out of class, not notifying their parents. That was a misstep. We got a lot of parents who were pretty upset about their students being pulled out and not having any parental notification. There still hasn't been any sort of email or, communication home to the parents at McCormic Junior High. So all of those things are still sort of up in the air. So I'm not prepared yet to say like, yep, we're good. We rainbows are absolutely allowed. Free speech is understood to encompass that, and that book is closed. It's not closed.
Sounds like nobody knows, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it is fair right now to say that what this has brought to the surface is that we do not have clarity in the policy that we had hoped maybe would be there.
Are you working to get that clarity then? Or?
We absolutely are, yeah. And I want to say, like, this last Friday, we had a great event at the Wyoming Equality office. We got to present the NAACP Youth Fund with a check for $1,000 that, the community raised for them. And the local NAACP, Juntos, who does immigration rights, Wyoming Equality, and just a really broad spectrum of faith leaders and community leaders have kind of come together in this committee to say, let's put our heads together and let's be very solution oriented. So a lot of really reasonable people who we don't all agree on a lot of things, but we're putting our heads together to see if we can find some good solutions for our kids in our schools.
I don't mean to dwell on the statement, but Friday from the district, but I guess I'm still confused because it explicitly said the rainbow flag is not banned, I believe.
Can you pull it up?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let me hit pause for a minute there. Okay,
Clarity.
I'm back with Sara Burlingame. We just had a chance to review the district statement again, and we still don't know exactly what the status is. At least I don't.
Well, I think it is more than fair to say that you could draw many different conclusions from that same statement, although that's not true. I think it's pretty understood and it's pretty incontrovertible what their statement is about swastikas and Confederate flags.
No, that part's not open to interpretation.
Yep.
It's
Right.
the rainbow flag section that I'm confused about.
Right.
The first line specifically says, you've got the statement in front of you. I don't have it in front of me. In pretty clear language to me that, okay, here's what it says. LCSD District 1 has not banned rainbow flags as reported by the Wyoming Tribune-Eagle on 4/19/2019. And then it goes on to refer to a statement made on Thursday. To me, that's an upfront statement. We haven't banned them, but you think there's a little more room for interpretation there, I guess.
Yeah, what that statement doesn't say is that, the teachers were acting at the behest of the Title IX investigator, John Balow, who absolutely directed the teachers to say that McCormic Junior High was banning rainbow flags. When I talked to Dr. Brown yesterday, he was very clear that that was never his intention. So, folks just aren't on the same page there. And, we need to get on the same page. How do we do that? Well, reasonable people put their heads together and we all sort of set aside any other political differences and we focus on what's best for the kids.
So at this point, it's a gray area. Long story short, as far as the rainbow flags. Do I have that right?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, moving on to some other topics, I did see a statement on your Facebook page the other day where you guys were calling for an investigation of Principal Conine. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is my lesson as having more scrutiny. That was among many things that Wyoming Equality was expressing gratitude to Dr. Brown for being an advocate for all students, including our Black and LGBT students who've been targeted. And we wanted to, express the positive that we saw going forward, but we also wanted to illuminate what we see as still, like we've been talking about, an open question, right? And the open question is, if Mr. Conine is saying that he denies that conversation ever took place, that Mr. Balow says did, and if he says that, this incident never really happened, it was only ever 2 flyers, and continues to diminish and in our perspective just misrepresent the facts, not the interpretations, but the facts, then we just can't have any confidence in him. And not only that, I mean, it wasn't just about the confidence in Mr. Conine, it was about the confidence in the Title IX investigation. I mean, it was our understanding that the investigators would not have a hand in offering discipline. And so that has kind of shrunk our ability to place faith in the investigation itself. So there were a number of things that Wyoming Equality was trying to thoughtfully draw attention to.
So are you calling for an independent investigation of the actions of Principal Conine?
We are. But it's not, but let me be very clear here. We're calling for an independent investigation, and the actions of the principal are one factor of that.
But you'd like a wider ranging
right, that's right. So what's come forward, and I'm sure you've heard some of these as well, are just an avalanche of stories. Some of them that span from, really far back, but some that are heartbreakingly current, about children coming forward and saying, I reported this. I let people know that I was being hurt, that I was being bullied, that the N-word was being used, against me. And I was met with nothing. I was not helped. I was
By school officials.
by school officials,
Okay.
right? So that's the piece, right? Like the culture and the climate. And I've talked to other school administrators, and I have to tell you, I mean, my own children. I talked to their principal yesterday and said, I've got kiddos in the district, and when they kind of heard what was going on, they said that would never happen at our school. Our principal would never allow it, and our students and our teachers, would stand up for each other. And that's what we want to hear. That's what we want to see. A really positive culture where the students, the teachers, the administrators are all on the same page, and they know that they're all working together to provide the best learning environment. Because kids don't learn in environments where they can be attacked, they can be dehumanized. If somebody stands up for them, they're fired. I mean, those kind of things really undercut our ability to learn.
And most people would say it starts at the top.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Hence the need for an investigation.
That's right.
Now, how about the Gay Straight Alliance substitute teacher? Her name escapes me at the moment.
Casey. Yeah, Miss
Is she still employed there or not, or what's the status on that?
Yeah, that's another misrepresentation, right? And I mean, you could probably reach out to Ms. Cook herself, but she's still an employee of the district. She still substitute teaches. She is in, I think, kind of an unfortunate limbo as well, where the school district has said, we will not tolerate retaliation. So, please know that you are protected in that. But at the same time, until the investigation is completed, they have not put into writing and haven't put down. And, they're asking for us to be generous with that and to say, it seems very clear that you were retaliated against, but we need to, go through our process as well. And, that's understandable. But at the same time, her name has been dragged through the mud. I mean, she's been just vilified for really just doing her job as a GSA sponsor, but also her job as just a decent human being,
But she has not been fired.
No, she's not been fired. She hasn't been fired from the district. She has been disinvited from McCormic Junior High, and she has been terminated as being the GSA sponsor on McCormic. But she still sponsors the county GSA. And
has she been replaced in that post, or have any plans been announced? Or
yeah, they have. Well, their current GSA sponsor is moving to another position, and so other teachers in the school have stepped up. And that's been a really lovely thing to see, that other teachers are making sure that, these kiddos have support.
Okay, let's talk about going forward. What do you want to see happen next?
Yeah, our ideal is that, we continue meeting with the school district, the school board, and Dr. Brown and his affiliates there, and that we craft some new policy, and that policy offers clarity rather than confusion about what is and is not allowed. And going forward, I mean, I think an independent investigation is necessary at this point, as well as some district-wide training, some sort of culturally competent training, because I believe that the teachers and the administrators in Laramie County School District number 1 are among some of the very best in the profession. And none of this stuff is intuitive in terms of, dealing with changing populations. And as skilled professionals, they deserve skillful training. And I think the district needs to provide them with that.
Now, you've had at least one community meeting I'm aware of. I think you had a couple other follow-up meetings. Any more meetings, public meetings coming up?
We haven't scheduled one yet, but that's next on the docs.
Okay, Sarah, is there anything we haven't talked about this morning you'd like people to know, or anything you'd like to clarify, or anything with this whole subject that you'd like to speak to before we close up the interview here this morning?
Sure, yeah. When there was a young student in Lander High School who had her car vandalized, and it was very cruel and it was very public. And a local auto body shop stepped forward and they said, well, I don't like to see any kids bullied. And they offered to paint her whole car at no cost, which was a really moving gesture and a great, decent thing to do. And here in Cheyenne, I think people have just been feeling like, oh man, these poor students, what a thing to go through. And so our hairdressers have stepped forward and have said, if any of these McCormic kids want to come and have their hair done, we'll donate our time. And Wyoming Equality is paying for the supplies. Black Dog Animal Rescue is working with us to see if we can't get some dogs and some puppies over there for the kids to cuddle. So the community, by and large, I think has placed this in the right context and has stepped up to say, we want to make sure these kiddos are okay and they can get back to learning.
There was one other thing I wanted to ask about, and I just remembered it again. What's behind this whole thing? Was the KKK really trying to recruit junior high kids, or what started this whole thing, or do we know?
Yeah, so in January, there was a white nationalist group that was recruiting in Cheyenne and was putting up flyers.
I saw those flyers,
yeah.
Yes.
So that group, the great thing about neo-Nazis is they're not very clever and they're always fighting with each other. They're not great at organizing. And so within a month of them doing that, they actually disbanded and rebranded under a new identity. I'm going to take a page from the Prime Minister in New Zealand, and I don't name them. I don't give them notoriety. I don't need to carry water for white nationalists. But they have rebranded, and they are now pretty active up in Gillette. There's a Gillette Facebook group that is taking pictures of stickers and flyers that they've put up. They're here in Wyoming. They're actively trying to recruit in Wyoming, and the best thing we can do is stand together as a community and say white nationalism has absolutely no place in our town.
But white nationalists did influence these kids to take some of the actions involved with this incident. We don't know.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't speak to that.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Doug.